Welcome, everyone, to Epic Conversation number 15. Today, I'm here with Lauren Wenzell. We actually met in Hawaii on a trip we went on this year in February with a group of people, and we were just commenting before I hit the record button on how close we got, like how fast, right? Wasn't that amazing? It's
Yeah,
yeah, we all got in into this kind of resort center and we just dove in with each other. And I love the connection, Lauren, that we've already made, and I'm so happy to have you as one of
thank
my
you
epic
so much for
conversations this
having
year.
me and the invitation to be here.
Yeah. So let's kick it off with you telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what you do in the world.
So, my name is Lauren. I'm a life coach. I use a bunch of different modalities and techniques to really connect with my clients, help do inner work, inner healing, and have them understand themselves better than probably they ever have.
Mm.
And my intention is to always give my clients a toolbox of how
Mhm.
they can do the inner work, different practices to support where they're going and what they want to accomplish and understand their gifts
Yeah.
and how their energetics are made for them. Because the one thing that I've been seeing, because my background is actually in psychology and working with
Mhm.
neurodiverse clients, and that's like kids with autism and special needs. So, what I saw back then before I transitioned into becoming a life coach was each client had a different program, a different
Mhm.
plan, a different behavior intervention. No program looked the same, nor was
Yeah.
it created the same. It was
Mhm.
specifically designed for that client. I was like, well, this is interesting because this is every person.
Yeah.
And you don't
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
that. You don't see
Yeah.
that in society. We're programmed to try to fit in these boxes. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
well, this is the model. So you should do this and fit in here. And it's just like, wow, that's
Yes.
interesting. That's not how it goes, actually. We're all, no
Yeah.
matter any type of label, any type of how we're made and how we're created to show up, we're
Yeah.
uniquely designed. And so that's what I really help people tap into. It's like, okay, well, you might be doing something this way, but your uniqueness and your design and your gifts are actually in this way. And
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and so that's something that just lights me up. And I feel so honored to be able to do that with people.
Yeah. I can see how, I mean, we've all been there when we feel like we're, I feel like I work with a lot of people that are like, they know they're like smart and capable, but for some reason, like things aren't clicking, right? And so you're speaking exactly to, right? How we struggle to get, into these boxes. Like I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. I'm doing it the way I'm supposed to do it, right? But that I love, and my experience of you too is like opening up our eyes to possibilities and having complete self-acceptance to be able to try new things. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for that reflection. And I think it's so important that we come into that acceptance and see, like, okay, I'm actually made to be this way or do this. And my
Mhm.
experience from the past actually served me
Yeah.
instead of trying to be fit into these boxes or these roles, and it's actually energetically painful, and then
Uh-huh.
it triggers all these limiting beliefs that are just not true. And
Yeah.
so when we can surrender that program of suffering and that negative self-talk and then be like, oh, actually, I'm going to choose what I want to align to believe.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
powerful, I'm a creator, I'm a manifester of my destiny. Then we see a shift not only within ourselves, but then everyone around us, because we are all interconnected.
Yeah. Shifting, I love how you called it the program of suffering. Like we all have that, and as soon as we can um be like drop the shame game enough, right? To be able to look at ourselves with love, right? That's when we start to shift. So I'm interested in your journey, right? How has what you've gone through, like what are the things that you've gone through that have brought you to these realizations and this self-acceptance that you have?
So how much time do you have?
Right? You've got an hour, right? Or whatever.
Oh. So I really just try to use where I am in my life right now because I really believe my life and where I am today is a miracle. To,
Mhm.
with my past and how I was programmed and the certain things I used to do, to me, I'm just like, it does not make sense that I turned out to be where I am right
Mhm.
now. But I think that makes
Yeah.
us the best teachers
Yes.
and
Yes.
people to help other people get through those certain things.
Mhm.
And God, the universe, source, our higher selves, whatever you relate to, um, we're prepared to go through certain things for a
Mhm.
purpose. And that
Yeah.
was really eye-opening to me. um, I started doing transformational work back in 2013.
Mhm.
And I think it was like a couple years after I graduated college, and I came back and I was living back at home. And I just felt really lost. I didn't know what I was going to do. My home environment wasn't the best. My parents just lived a very different life. Um, my brother was there, but he was, a little bit younger, doing his
Yeah.
own thing. And I just felt like, what's my purpose? What am I gonna do? And I made like a declaration to the universe. And I didn't really
Mhm.
pray back then. I was
Mhm.
like, God, just like give me a sign. Like I'm like
Yeah.
kind of like at my breaking point right now.
Yeah.
And then I had a friend, she started doing these transformational workshops, and she said that she had some really big breakthroughs with her dad, and she like got really vulnerable and like, and I wasn't used to seeing that. I was like, whoa, this is
Yeah. What is this? Yeah.
yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm interested. And so I went to a guest event, and something inside me was like, I have to do this. I have to start doing this work. And so that one step was the opening to me sort of shifting my perspective of my past, because I was a victim of my past, and I thought
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I, was
The whole
controlled by,
club.
right, controlled by every single circumstance, anything anyone had ever said to me. I relinquished my power so easily. But then I had this one moment where I was like, oh my gosh, if I went through certain things for a purpose,
Mm. Mhm.
like what does that mean for my life now?
Yeah.
What does that mean about me? And it's been this journey ever since. We're going on to what, like 9 years. And
Mhm.
I'm still coming into that place of, am I going to be a victim or am I going to be a powerful creator from what I've been through?
Yeah.
And I mean, I've been through everything from like all different types of trauma, different past, like drinking, different types of like abuse that I did that wasn't taking care of myself and my body. And I met myself at a place where I didn't think was possible. That
Mm.
and that shame and that like self-loathing and all the criticism and that self-judgment. And I was just like, I just have to be here and love it until it heals. And
Yeah.
that was really that intuition that we all have that
Yeah.
came through. It wasn't from the logical mind. It came from higher source, from my heart,
Mhm.
whatever, that I was experiencing in that moment. And so it's like taking these teachings, because I really am a fan of like self-development and higher like education, and then
Yeah.
trusting my own inner wisdom too, and combining the two.
Oh my gosh, I'm writing down self-development plus inner wisdom because those are the two pieces, right? That
Mhm.
um when when we have exposure to some self-development, right? I feel like that's what gives us access, right? It's like the path to finally being able to see the answers inside of us that we've been craving. Um, that's so beautiful. So the one you made a post recently about, is it your hip or your leg, right? Like some things about your body that you have grown
Mhm.
up with. Could we use that as an example of?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So I was born with a mild physical disability, mild CP or spastic type diplegia. And I didn't find out my correct diagnosis till I was 22.
Mhm.
And
Wow.
so my parents, for their own reason and the purpose of my experience, they did not think it would benefit me to know my diagnosis. They just said, oh, you were born with this, and your muscles contract and they get really tight. And so it affected my gait.
Uh-huh.
But they never like treated me that I was different or like had like a special like disability or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
Just were like, no, this is still Lauren, and she's gonna be an independent person.
Uh-huh.
And that was really challenging sometimes because I was so sensitive, and being an empath as a kid and being projected on and bullied,
Yeah.
it was really intense. And when I finally found out my diagnosis at the age of 22, it was just sort of like everything clicked, like it made sense, but I had like a lot of grief that I had
Yeah.
to process for the next couple of years. And then I kept seeing as to like this was not a curse as I had
Mm.
previously had the program just running
Right.
in my head. It was like, no, this was a gift. Like it showed me different how to relate to different people and have that empathy and know like what the destruction of bullying is, and then why
Yeah.
people even bully. It's because like
Yeah.
as cliche as it sounds, it's like hurt people, and it has nothing to do with the person that is being bullied, but the bullier. And if we take those labels off, it's like forgiveness is so powerful.
Mm.
We all deserve healing no matter what. And I know that is such like a bold statement because
I
I
love it. I love it.
believe in justice and karma too, but it's like when you're continuing to perpetuate certain labels, that keeps us separate, and that keeps that other person not being able to rise to the occasion to right their wrongs. And I believe
Yeah.
every single person deserves that.
Let's dig into that a little bit because I love it, love it, love it, and I'm on exactly the same page. Um, so in this example, what you're referring to is calling somebody a bully, right? Like looking back in your past, right? Or your present even,
Mhm.
right? And deciding that this person is a bully and this person is a victim, period, done, this is who they are,
Mhm.
right? Like what is the downside to that you see? Like that's what we're all used to,
Right.
right?
So for me, that, and I'll just use myself as an example, it kept me powerless. I
Mhm.
was, if I'm claiming to be a victim doesn't have power.
Yeah.
And so, and then the bully, they have the power. And
Yeah.
in my subconscious mind, that made them have more authority over me and believing
Yeah.
what they were projecting their hurt onto me over
Yes.
something that, I mean, whatever, we create our own meaning, right? And
Yes.
so the way that has really supported me in healing those childhood wounds is to have that compassion for people and
Yeah.
see that what I was born with was a gift, and it protected me from certain people entering my life, and then those people that did come in and hurt me, or that what I perceived as hurt, taught me really valuable lessons. And it was like, it was my choice when to accept those lessons. Because once you accept certain
Yeah.
behaviors, it's a choice. And then when
Yeah.
you stop accepting it, then it becomes the lesson. And then you find
Yes.
self forgiveness, and then you can forgive somebody else, and you find that freedom. And then you can love more, and then you can enjoy life more.
Yes.
Well, the past doesn't have that much power over you.
And even if we take it, so yeah, that's you laid that out so beautifully. Um I'm gonna go back and write all these down because we need to like take that clip out and blast it out to the world. But in the present, when we are currently experiencing something that um for using the same example, the bully and the victim, I find naming a bully and a victim, right? If I put myself in that position and I've decided that XYZ person is a bully and I'm the victim, I love how you brought up powerlessness because then I've decided that I'm powerless, right? I've decided in this moment that that person has control of the situation. And really, for me, I can't speak for the world, right? But for me, using those labels is like a roadblock on a path out of it, right?
Definitely.
Because if I've decided that I'm a victim, then I can't get on any other road than victimhood, right? It like becomes my identity. And then I start being in that identity in other situations too, right?
Exactly. Because
Yeah.
how does a victim create?
Mhm.
How does a
Right.
victim attract? And
Right.
it's all energy. So if and I'll just use again like my past as like when I was in those states, it's like, well, if I'm having all these thoughts that identify with the victim, that's running the inside of my
Yeah.
internal being. And then so my outside is going to mirror that.
Yes.
But when we drop the labels, and it can be any type of label, right?
Yeah.
Like with somebody with special needs, somebody who
Yeah.
has like a CEO, like it really doesn't matter. How, if we can drop all the labels, and even like being a life coach, I'm like, I don't even like using that label
I know.
because
Same.
I'm so
Yes.
resistant. I'm so resistant to labels
Yeah.
because like I'm just Lauren. And
Yeah.
that's like my name, but it's like, how am I being? Like, how can I show up and I'm being? Am I being joyful and fun? And then I get to create from that, or am I being present and
Yeah.
caring and open and loving? And then I'm creating from that. And so
Yeah.
when we drop all these labels and we come in to see like, damn, somebody is actually just really hurting. And then
Mhm.
they're creating from that. And so their survival pattern is actually to attack. They
Yes.
didn't feel safe to experience
Yes.
love. And so that's
Yes.
their coping mechanism, right? And so that's how we can drop those labels of bully and victim, right? Because they're actually mirroring each other. They're
Right.
not,
One is required for the other.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. Another a pet peeve that I have, or a shift that I've made, I'll say, is away from using the word narcissist. Like I feel like it's become a word that we just use all the time, right? Anybody who is self-interested at all, right, in the way we and the way we perceive hurts us, right? We call them a narcissist. And I find when I had used to use that word, it made me feel powerless to change the situation or
Mhm.
to relate to that person, right? And I can see how the word narcissist, it's actually like a medical diagnosis, right? And so
Mhm.
I'm not saying that narcissists aren't real,
Yeah.
right? I'm not saying that we all don't have a little bit of narcissist in us,
Mhm.
right? Like totally, we all, mental disorders are just extremes of, you know, kind of, normal characteristics. And I love the freedom that comes when we drop the labels, because now if that's just a person, right? Then we actually have a chance of talking. And of course, I'm going to need to adjust how I operate in the situation, right? To navigate it well and to get to whatever kind of dynamic I'm hoping for. But when we set us both up as equals, right? That is what sets us up, right, for an equal power exchange, right? Because that our power is created with inside of us. And if we don't bring it, no one's giving it to us,
Mhm.
right?
So
Yeah.
true, 100%.
Yeah. So, cool point there. I don't know if I interrupted the train of thought you were on before to like stop and dig in there a little bit. But we'll just move on. So what I would love to talk about for the rest of the time here is what inner work wisdom, right? Like what spiritual or personal development learnings have you found that helped you the most on your path?
um Man, there's just been so many.
Yeah, what was like an early one? What was like a thing you learned in the beginning that really
What I
helped?
learned in the beginning was my perspective, shifting my
Hmm.
perspective 100%.
Yeah.
The way I look at things. So when we're going through something and it's triggering, we get so attached.
Yeah.
But if we can take a moment and pause and breathe through that trigger, that reaction, not react, but just noticing what's happening, notice what's
Yeah.
happening in the body and the nervous system, what thoughts are being fired. Just breathing through it, like giving yourself some space, like telling yourself, I don't have to react right now. Let me
Hmm.
just wait a little bit
Yeah.
until like I settle in. And then when I was able to sort of, what I experienced was either connecting more with like my higher consciousness or God. And I would ask, okay, can you show me a different perspective?
Ah, wow, that's a beautiful ask.
And because I'm like, because I'm attached. So I'm just looking at through my perspective.
Uh-huh.
So it's my perspective, the other person's perspective, and then the truth. And then what's the truth? You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's, it's like the truth is so many things.
Yeah.
And so when I was able to shift my perspective and see like, okay, well, if I'm not a victim of my past,
Hmm.
what was the lesson? What was the perspective in it? And I was shown that if I wasn't born in the body I was born in, I wouldn't have the empathy I have. I just
Uh-huh.
feel that in my body. I would
Yeah.
probably be more narcissistic, resentful, angry, and wouldn't be able to break these generational patterns and traumas. And
Yeah.
that's just a knowing I have inside of me
Yes.
that everything that has happened has been for a greater purpose. And like the awareness that came to me recently is God was like, in my experience, was, get over yourself. Like, get over yourself. Like,
Yeah.
this isn't just about you. Like, let life come through you. Like, separate from your ego a little bit more
Yeah.
and be of service. So you
Yeah.
can really touch as many people as you can, because it's not about you, girlfriend. Like, it is, but it isn't, you know?
No, I wrote down before you said that for everyone because the shift that I've made recently or in the past, I guess maybe since I've been coaching or leading women's circles, is realizing that there's the saying, it's not happening to me, it's happening for me. And I'm like, no, 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 it's happening for everyone,
Mhm.
right? Like you having that experience was happening for everyone on the planet. You know, JP Morgan just posted a video in the Ultimate Coach group saying that everything that every interaction that we have, the way that we're being during it, it's like a proven thing that it affects our being spreads at least 3 degrees away from us, at least, right? And if you multiply that by how many people see in a day, right? And then that if your being is going to live in me a little bit now and mine's going to live in you a little bit now, right? Then that goes on forever, right?
I love that
So
so much.
yeah. So you being in conversation with me right now, I'm going to take a little bit of Lauren with me and spread that all over the world forever,
Oh,
right?
and me and you with me too.
Right.
If anybody doesn't know, Heather's hugs are the best hugs in the world. I could not get enough of them in Hawaii. I was like, hug me, Heather.
More hugs.
Yes.
Yeah, but now, my hug can change your hug, right? And then your hug could change somebody else's hug. Like we are affecting the world in ways that we will never fully understand, right? So I the I you know, I love that you've more than once now we talked about the importance of like seeing the things that have happened to you, right? And finding the gold in it that has always been there, not like making up a silver lining, right? That's a cool thing to do, but actually finding the gold in the experience. We talked about this with David. I talked about it with David on the last conversation. Um, that's a gift that is going to keep on giving forever,
Because
right?
that in that way you transform from being a victim into a liberator. And then
Yes.
you can show people who have been victimized how to become liberators too.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, there's a tendency in this, I think, a misconception to think that because we're saying it's for you, that means it wasn't a bad thing that happened, right? But
Mhm.
what if we're free enough, right, to be able to have bad things happen and make good out of it forever, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a freedom, don't you think? Yeah.
Yes, it definitely, because I've had a lot of trauma that has happened to me, probably like at least 3 to 4 lifetimes. And there's points where I was like, God, like,
What's
could you
going
have given
on?
me like half? Could you have like waited to like spread this out a little bit? But what
Yeah.
came through to me was, God doesn't give us anything we can't uh, handle. Like
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
soul, our whatever anybody like resonates with. Just because I'm using the term God,
Yeah.
whatever
Right.
somebody
Whatever.
connects with more.
Hmm.
So for me, going through certain types of trauma, it showed me what compassion is. It
Yeah.
showed me the abuser doing the abuse, what their trauma was, and
Yeah.
my capacity for love and forgiveness and
Yeah.
compassion. And that is the most powerful thing. I don't care if somebody talks about money, like money is
Yeah.
great,
Hmm.
the things like luxury in life. Love, compassion, and forgiveness, that's, you can't put a value on that. And
That's wealth, right? Right
that's
there.
the most powerful thing. And that's, I believe, with every essence of my being. that needs to be the focus. That gets to be the focus, because then we become whole, complete beings. And then in that space, imagine our relationships, imagine our
Yeah.
world, imagine our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. Now what I just had this uh thought. You said that should be the focus, right? And right now it's like, how much money can I make in a day, right? And like, yeah, let's make money. I love to make money, right? But how much forgiveness can I offer in a day, right? How much compassion can I share in a day, right? How much love can I feel and express in a day? What kind of world would that be? I've been trying to write this website for like 3 months, and I just like keep getting into my head because I go like deeper and deeper and deeper about like why I'm doing this, right? So it's a really good practice, like no complaints, but I'm letting it take as long as it takes, right? But I find that uh, I think so many of us do this work because we realize that creating this on a one-to-one level, right, this understanding is what makes it possible, right, for it to happen on a greater and a greater and a greater scale, right? This is actually the things, the thoughts inside us, the feelings inside us, right? What we wake up every morning and cultivate in our own lives, that is the world changing, right? When we change, that is the world changing.
And I just want to let you know, if you met me 2 years ago, or maybe even three, you'd be like, I don't know who that girl is, but like, okay, have fun in your little pity party, whatever the
Ah,
pity party
uh-huh.
word. Like,
Yeah,
so if I can change,
yeah, yeah,
and it takes dedication, it's a choice,
yeah.
and I had no patience. I was like, oh, I want it to happen now,
Right.
and I want what I
Just,
want
yeah.
yesterday. And if I
Mhm.
have to put in the work, like, well, how long is it going to take?
Right,
Right. But then once
right.
you recommit to yourself, it becomes a part of your lifestyle.
Yeah,
And then you sort of forget what you're committing to, and it just becomes part of your lifestyle. And then you become a new person, and then you have a new reality. And you
yes,
no longer attach to that person that was resentful, or
yeah,
operated from lack, or thought that everything was more valuable outside instead of inside.
yes, yes. No, that's the shift, right? Looking outside of ourselves for validation or love or anything, right? The big, big shift is learning that it's all within us, right? We create it. We even create our perception of what's available out there, right?
Mhm.
And we have the power to shift all of that. And it's not like this, like, I'm gonna shift it and be better, right? It's like, I feel better, right?
Mhm.
That's what I think you learn. I think sometimes people are like, I'm gonna get into this to get to be, you know what I mean? To like check off some more boxes. And then you get into
Right.
doing inner work and you're like, man, this feels good, right?
Yeah, and it's like it's separating, like, okay, was that the ego talking, or is that like my
Mm,
higher self, or my heart, or my soul, or my higher
yeah,
consciousness?
yeah.
And like the ego's going to be there. we're
Mhm.
we're with it. It does have a purpose. It helps, sort of decipher certain things. And it's like, okay, well, this is sort of related to the past, or is my safety mechanisms being triggered. But then
Yeah,
it's like, if we're not triggered for like a life or death experience,
yeah,
it's a practice to be like, okay, ego, thank you for your time and what you have to say. I'm going to drop down into my heart and reassure that I am safe, and see
yeah,
what I want to believe, what
yeah,
thoughts do support me.
yeah,
And it's that inner work that comes in. It's meeting our inner child. It's holding that space. It's crying. It's getting that energy out that has been stored for maybe decades,
yeah.
and not putting a time limit on the transformation.
Yeah, it's kind of a difference between like going on a diet for 30 days to like meet some goal versus like, no, I'm just gonna, you know, like right now, I eat vegetables every morning. That used to be like a thing. Like, oh my gosh, this is so weird, right? Like this whole thing. And now I was telling somebody like, how do people not eat vegetables in the morning? Because it makes my head so clear when I don't, and so it's literally just part of what I want
Yeah.
now, right? You literally change your preferences when you start to feel better. when you start to see how the way you were living was creating your reality, and it can be different, anytime. Such magic, right? It feels like magic, I think,
Mhm.
when I look
Definitely.
back on the change. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and we live in such a powerful time right now. I mean, we have access to so many different tools. I mean,
Hmm.
the world is literally at our fingertips.
Yeah.
And, Google and all those things like 30, 40 years ago, we
Right?
so I mean, it's time,
Yeah.
energy, things are speeding up really, really fast. So
Yes.
anything is possible. And I just have this feeling of like each decision now, each choice, it is so impactful of
Yeah.
what is going to shift and continue to
Mhm.
shift this world. And are
Yeah.
we going to choose to come into collaboration,
Mhm.
to community, to love, to forgiveness, for betterment, not from our
Yeah.
own personal gain, but for
Yeah.
everyone? Or are
Yeah.
we going to be controlled by fear and
Yeah.
disconnection and wanting to
Yeah.
be right?
Yeah.
And neither one is right or wrong. And I understand the fear, you
Right.
know,
Right.
and that act of love and courage and forgiveness, that is a strength. It
Mhm.
is one of the most powerful things that you can ever do.
Yeah.
To me, that is the most courageous thing, is somebody opening their heart and being
Yes.
brave and choosing something
Yes.
new.
Yes.
That
Yes.
vulnerability, that is strength to me.
That is strength. Absolutely. You mentioned a couple minutes ago, all the different modalities that are available to us. And there's a lot, right? I used to think like I used to want to try them all because they must each do something different, but I'm finding that it's all leading, do you know what I mean? It's like different paths to the same, right? The same ending or result or experience. Um, will you tell us a little bit about yours? Like, what do you do in your coaching practice? I know you read my human design.
Uh, Yeah, I'm getting certified in level 2 right now, and that's like human design is just a rabbit hole. So it's like a
Yeah,
rabbit
yeah,
hole,
yeah.
a rabbit hole. My mind is like always like just expanding and being blown. So I really love using human design in my coaching. I'm also a soul realignment practitioner, so I can go into the Akashic records. I can look up people's soul gifts, look up their past life stuff, like certain blocks and restrictions that are showing up in this life that happened in past lives. I focus a lot on inner child healing,
Mhm.
reparenting, mindset work,
Yeah.
affirmations. Sometimes I'll look at their astrology too. So everything that I've like researched about myself and that I have really support me,
Yeah.
like, I
Yeah.
use with my clients.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about reparenting because that's something that I love, love, love to talk about and love to
Yeah.
do for myself and teach other people how to do. So, what does reparenting mean to you?
So reparenting to me is meeting your inner child as your own parent
Yeah.
and just giving your inner child that unconditional love
Mhm.
and space and meeting them. And to me, that's being both mom and dad. And it's like
Yes.
you choosing, okay, what is the mother energy that I need? It's not what you got as a child, it's what do
Yeah.
I need? What does that look like? And envisioning it and feeling it in your body. And so it's like you're doing this like dualistic role. Like,
Yes.
it's a lot of energy, right? It takes like a lot of like being grounded and present within yourself, and and seeing like, okay, I am my own mom, or even envisioning like, what does a divine mother look like? What does
Right.
she feel like?
Right.
And then receiving that healing and that message, and then treating yourself as so it's like, okay, what do I need in this moment? Do I need unconditional love, or do I need space? Do I
Yeah.
need somebody to guide me? Do I need somebody to just hold me and nurture me right now? And
Yeah.
sometimes I would even, and I still do, like hug myself
Oh,
and
yeah.
reach myself,
Uh-huh.
right? And just give myself that like touch and sensation that my body needs. and just talk to myself like what I would want as a child. Like, you're so amazing. You're beautiful inside and out. You did nothing wrong. You're perfect. Like, you deserve this and this and this, right? Because as
Yeah.
children, if we came from like codependency or chaotic family environments, or maybe parents were just really busy and not as present, we
Yeah.
probably didn't receive those messages as much. So it's like going
Yeah.
back and reparenting. And then also, because like the masculine and the feminine are very different energies. So the feminine has to do with the mother and that unconditional love. And then the father is that masculine, which is actually safety.
Uh-huh.
It's space. It's somebody who's in integrity. And so it's like being channeling, holding both of those energies and then receiving that and then marrying them into your inner child and just giving yourself that space to go through the process. And I have
Yeah.
to tell you, when a lot of my inner child wounds started coming up to the surface, I cried like 3 to 4 months every day, like straight like a baby. Like, I was
You
just
like
like, oh
let the
my
stress out. I feel
gosh.
like that's what we're doing, right? It's
Mhm.
like the stress we've been holding on, right? Of the judgment, of feeling the judgment every day, of feeling the unworthiness every day, of and so many things in relationships with our parents, it's nice to recognize that like we were interpreting what they did, right? And we have a chance to reinterpret,
Right.
yeah, what really
Because they
happened.
will have their perspective too. It doesn't mean
Yes.
anyone else's perspective is right. So
Right.
you could have this perspective of, somebody could have this perspective of, oh, my mom was never there for me. She abandoned me.
Yeah.
Whereas the mother would be like, I gave everything to my kid. I
Yeah.
worked 2 jobs. I was the
Right.
most loving parent, and I didn't get that from my parents. And
Right.
it's like neither perspective is wrong.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just influences us differently.
Which is so important. That's why it's so important to be able to identify as adults, like what we crave, right? Whatever our parents either weren't able to give to us or didn't give to us, or we had just interpreted things, right, in our own way. And so that's a form of not giving it to ourselves then either. Um, and giving it to ourselves now, like in
Mm-hmm.
abundance, realizing that we can have as much unconditional love, all the things you listed, space, nurturing, right? Self-belief, belief in ourselves. We can have all of it that we want. And I love that you brought up, because not everybody does this, that we actually have like two inner parents,
Mm-hmm.
right? The masculine and the feminine. And I worked on my masculine a lot this year because I'd only worked with the feminine previously. I
Mm-hmm.
realized that it was like you know, this mother that I created inside myself, right? But
Mm-hmm.
then I didn't have my inner father, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and it feels like a whole role, you know, that if as I learn to do it for myself, I'm learning to do it for my children and for others too, right? And I think it's such a gift to recognize that. Uh, I think sometimes we don't feel whole because we embody the masculine or the feminine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of having both, right? Let's turn them both up to 100.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's divine both sides of us. And have you had the same experience like that? I feel like that gets kind of neglected, the inner father.
Yeah, definitely. And I think um with us as just individuals, our core, we might lean more towards one or the other.
Yeah,
Like, somebody who identifies as feminine, like their core might be feminine, but we have masculine in our being as well. We have
yeah,
these two energies. We're
yeah,
not just one or
yeah,
the other.
yeah,
And so that's really important to emphasize. And then also, it's like, how do you want to play with these energies? Like,
mhm,
what's the best fit for you? Just because if
yeah,
somebody's more feminine or masculine, that doesn't mean that's for everyone. So it's really giving yourself that freedom. And it's
yeah,
like, maybe you want to be a boss in both and just hype them up, like you said. And I
yeah,
love
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And that, to me, that's a superhuman. When they're divine masculine, divine feminine, they're healed in those energies, and they're just amped up and married together. Like,
yeah.
watch out. Watch out.
Right, right, right. Because when you have the being and the doing,
Mhm.
right? I feel like when things, I consider, the the divine feminine, she has an inner yes, right? And the divine masculine has an inner yes, you know? And so when you have both your being and your doing on the same team, right? And they're both a yes, like you can have whatever you want, right? Then that's when you actually, because we can talk about healing and that gets us to okay, right? But
Mhm.
then fulfillment is when we say yes to what
Right.
we want and we
Yeah.
go and get it,
Yes.
right? And that's the like coaching part, right? Like we can get, I feel like every one of my clients, we do healing first, right? And then we get to a place, and then
Right.
it's like, now it's time to go get what we want.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you can have it. It's yours already, right?
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we wrap up here, what is one thing that if you wish the whole world could know, right? If there's like a lesson or piece of wisdom or a learning that if you could spread it all over the world, what would it be?
Just one thing. Let's see.
Take a minute. Yeah.
um, I think the one thing that I wish people would know and really just take the time to even just like inquire about
Mhm.
is their belief system
Mm,
and the power of forgiveness
yeah.
and seeing their thoughts and seeing if they support them or not. And if they knew that anything was possible, would they continue to think certain things and choose certain things? And that our time is very limited here.
Uh-huh.
Before we know it, this is all over, and then we're on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so treating time as a gift in that way, what would you choose from that space if you knew you were unlimited, if you knew that forgiveness was a superpower and you could choose your thoughts, what would you think, and then how would you be, and what would your relationships look like, and what would your life be like? What would you choose?
Yeah. You're talking about epic visioning right now. That's like my favorite thing, right? Is
Yes.
like what, yeah, what you're talking about to me is the shift from like coping with life, right?
Mhm.
To being the world you want to live in, like designing an epic vision, right? And then spending our lives learning to be that,
And it
right?
doesn't have to be like someone's epic vision could be like a mom and having an amazing
Yes,
family.
yes,
Someone's
yes,
epic vision could be living on a farm and
yes,
just connecting, like getting off the grid and living in
yes,
nature. And that's their epic vision. It doesn't have
yes.
to be any type of way. It's what's calling from your soul. And are you going to answer that call?
Yeah, for me, epic is the thing that would expand us into our greatness, right? And like you said, it doesn't mean, I mean, it could be making millions of dollars, like that's super cool. But when, what if, you know, your personal greatness, like you said, would be going to live on a farm, right? Because your whole life you were told you need to go be a lawyer and make,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Right? So, and I love how especially these younger generations, and maybe that was a judgment of older generations, but we're getting more and more into like aligning ourselves with like what the earth needs,
Hmm.
right? Like we're realizing that it's the same thing, and so more and more of epic, I tease that sometimes epic is ice cream or a nap, right?
Yes. Nap.
Like
Nap, please. Our us projectors need the naps. Yes, I will take some naps.
yeah, so once you reframe, like you said, that anything's possible. And I would add in there, I loved everything that you said. Oh my gosh. But that like we're all the same,
Hmm.
right? If
Yeah.
we could add in that like nobody, no Kardashian or name any, whoever you feel like has something that you don't, right? Like we
Right.
are all the same, you
Yeah.
know? And there's the there's nothing about who we are that's in our way,
Hmm.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Which brings us
So good.
back to like uh the example that you gave about your life, right? That was such a beautiful um the being different in your gait, right?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
you learned that wasn't something that was in your way,
Right.
right? That
It
was
was it was
that
for my
pushed you forward.
purpose.
Yeah.
It And it's like everything that it's like, am I going to choose to make it a wrong thing or a right thing? I
Yeah.
have that choice. Why not make it right?
Right.
That was the
If I'm gonna be
beauty
alive.
and the gift. And then coming from that space, and what comes from that space is like, oh, protection,
Yeah.
like gratitude, compassion, self love, instead of the opposite, which used to be self hate,
Yeah.
judgment, disconnection, victimhood. So it
Yeah.
could go either way.
Yeah.
We all have the power to choose what we want to believe
Yeah.
and our perspectives and how to relate to things.
Yeah. Beautiful. Oh my gosh, beautiful, beautiful concluding sentence. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
coming and
Heather.
having. Yeah.
This was an epic conversation that I simply loved and enjoyed being part of.
Oh, good. Well, we'll have to do it again sometime. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome.